Coming up in this video of the Angle Show, we're talking about an AEW wrestler being moved to Ring of Honor, WWE potentially losing their TV deal with Fox, and we got to talk about Revolution and an AEW wrestler returning. It's all coming up right here on the Angle Show. So we're going to kick things off with SmackDown before we start talking about AEW, and it starts with Fox potentially pulling away from WWE. There's been a lot of talk about WWE and Fox and whether or not WWE SmackDown is actually profitable for Fox. There was some reports that went out in recent months that SmackDown was not profitable for Fox, and Fox technically lost money on the TV deal. That was all some, internet reports and stuff like that. But now Forbes sports money editor Mike Ozanian, he tweeted a screenshot from a presentation generated by Wells Fargo securities analysts about WWE's domestic media rights prospects. The main takeaway was that they don't think Fox is willing to do a new deal at a higher price. He adds that it's possible that this could lead to the price of SmackDown being partially underwritten by a streaming partner in the new contract, or the show outright leaving its current spot on Fox. Now, with that being said, this is obviously a very big topic because WWE, part of WWE and what they've done with their media rights deals was, Raw and NXT went to USA Network, which was owned by NBC, Comcast, and then we saw SmackDown get moved to Fox, which that in its own was a very big deal because both deals were worth a ton of money. There were two separate deals. WWE obviously had a lot of advantages to doing that. If WWE and SmackDown, if WWE and Fox decide not to keep SmackDown, then I do think it makes a lot of sense for USA Network to also bring SmackDown in. Honestly, I know this sounds kind of crazy, but I would actually prefer if Monday Night Raw, if at any way possible, it would be nice to see Monday Night Raw on NBC, which primetime television, and then SmackDown could be moved to USA Network. And then, if they want to put NXT on TV, that's great. I personally would rather see NXT on Peacock. I think they could get away with a little bit more. But this will be very, very interesting. That would be my preference if I had it my way. I don't think that would make a lot of sense, though, because Raw is 3 hours long. And, depending on what, like for us in Detroit, it's Channel 4, NBC. So everybody's a little bit different, but I feel like they have like some other stuff that's on. I don't know what it would be, but nonetheless, it's very interesting. That would be my preference though. But nonetheless, SmackDown possibly getting taken off Fox could be very interesting. All right, guys, I want to talk to you guys about the overall success of Revolution. Tony Khan put out a tweet. He said that Revolution did great revenue. It's widely considered one of the best shows AEW has ever done. And then, of course, he started promoting AEW's debut for Sacramento. I don't want to spend too much time talking about AEW Revolution, but just to kind of give you an idea, AEW seems to do very well selling their pay-per-views. Regardless of how fans feel about the build, regardless of how fans feel about TV, AEW has shown that they do a very good job of selling tickets and selling the pay-per-view. Now, the show wasn't a complete sellout. Not that I really think that's a big deal. It obviously looked pretty packed in there. It looked like AEW had a successful show. Tony Khan is confirming it. I think this is good news for AEW. We just want to see this become a thing where maybe AEW can potentially consider doing some sort of different distribution for the pay-per-views, which is kind of difficult, right? Because there's talks about streaming and, well, obviously pay-per-views are $50. So I want to see what they do. I don't know exactly what to expect, but I do know I am excited to see that AEW's pay-per-views continue to be valuable to the company. Maybe a company like Warner Media looks at that and says, hey, let's start doing a sports streaming app, or let's put this live on HBO Max. There's a lot of value in it. I don't know what to expect, but I do suspect that some point down the line, this could be really, really good news for them. Guys, we got to talk about Andrade because his assistant, Jose, posted a video on Twitter with him and Andrade's mask. And obviously, they are teasing the return of Andrade. Now, we know Andrade was injured. He was healing from injury. He's been expected back to TV relatively soon. We don't know exactly when. Some people are speculating it could be as soon as this Wednesday for Dynamite. Nonetheless, Andrade is expected back on television. I'm excited about this. I think Andrade is a great player for the team of AEW. But we got to talk about something. Because a lot of people thought with Andrade and his social media antics, and trust me, we were all talking about it, especially on videos, but Andrade was teasing that he might have some issues with AEW. There might be some backstage drama with AEW. He tweeted a lot of things that made it look like he was done with AEW. That is not the case. Andrade's with AEW. We should not suspect that Andrade will be leaving AEW in the event that he does. Until it's actually officially confirmed, we won't be discussing those types of rumors anymore because we do know that it was played into a storyline because he was getting injured. And obviously when he got injured, that was, one of those things that they kind of had to write him off. And so Andrade still with AEW, expected to return soon. I think it's a good thing. I think Andrade is a good piece for AEW. I do want to see him get better utilized, but I am excited to see what Tony Khan decides to do with Andrade when he does return. And could that potentially be Ring of Honor? Speaking of Ring of Honor, we got to talk about this gentleman right here. You might be looking at this image, and you might not know who this is. But this right here is Serpentico, unmasked. So essentially, the rumor or the belief is that going forward on Ring of Honor, Serpentico will be used on Ring of Honor's TV tapings as Bendejo. He has a match against Eddie Kingston. This was already announced. It's going to be happening at this week's episode of Ring of Honor, March 9th, 2023. Serpentico in AEW has over 100 losses, I think. He has been used in AEW pretty much as a jobber. It's expected that he's going into Ring of Honor as a jobber, hence why he has a match against Eddie Kingston in Ring of Honor. Obviously, Eddie Kingston needs to start picking up some wins in Ring of Honor before he goes on to compete against Claudio for the ROH Championship. So here's the cool thing. AEW has a huge roster of people who can't be used. Serpentico wasn't necessarily being used for television, but he was being used for Dark or for Rampage as a jobber. Now, he'll be able to use a different character into Ring of Honor, in the Ring of Honor show, in the event that they ever want to do something with him, because they're separate characters, separate presentations, they actually could. And I kind of like that. This guy, by the way, Serpentico is such a great wrestler, and it's just really crazy to see that, there's a lot of stuff happening. But also, I do want to point out, he is wrestling in Ring of Honor as Serpentico as well, as a jobber. So this guy is doing double duty. It is the craziest thing. I don't know what the hell is going on here, but AEW has moved Serpentico to Ring of Honor as Bendejo, but also at the same time, Serpentico is still wrestling in Ring of Honor. Very strange, very confusing, but ultimately, we'll see what happens. Maybe this guy's going to be jobbing with two different characters, and that right there would be insane. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below.